being here. I don't know why I say that, because this is always to your benefit. So I'm thanking you for working on yourselves, which actually, now that I think about it, is my job. So there we go. You can do one thing better than attending these things. Would you please stand up, Ethan?
Oh.
Okay, turn around. Okay, this is the type of attire I'd like to see.
It's okay.
Okay, but I remember. Okay. All right. Anyway, this is the second career seminar we've had this semester. The first one was regards to sustainability projects on campus, which needed substantial planning and engineering. And I think this is going to be kind of an engineering semester. And I'm super happy to welcome Barry Clyde, who's president and founder, I assume, of Clyde Construction Engineering.
Sounds more bold than it is, but yes, true.
Actually sounds super bold, actually, but anyhow. Mr. Clyde did an undergraduate here in math, and is president of a company that helps healthcare companies build the appropriate buildings that they need.
Well said.
Yeah, what happened in between? Oh, anyway.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks all for being here. Appreciate it. Appreciate your time. Make sure you scan the QR code, because I assume there's some credit involved with your attendance, if I remember correctly. So I have seen some of these presentations that you have been to or that others have done in the past. Were some of them very highly technical in nature, which is great. I will tell you, if I have a lot of physics people in here, this will intentionally not be nearly as technical. As I'm super proud of my math degree. There are things happening in physics that are not, for me, that are certainly above my capabilities. So I will not be talking particularly technically. I will just be talking about sort of my path here at Oneonta. I think what was of value to me here. I'll be talking about engineering, what engineering ultimately has done for me, what value I think it has, those kind of things. So specifically, this is what I will use as the presentation material, just as an educational note. This is an A3. I don't know if any of you have great experience with that. In our business, specifically at my company, we use them a lot for decision making or to communicate ideas or to take complex things on our projects and communicate them in as direct or concise a way as possible. So the magic of this is to take as much information as you think is valuable for that particular exercise, to get it on a single sheet, to sort of force you to organize, force you to think through the way that you should be presenting and describing things and evaluating things. So this is what I would use to present this A3, if you will. We'll sort of move kind of maybe a little haphazardly on the page, but we'll get to that. So our agenda for today, specifically speaking, is here. I will say to you, for all of you going, juniors or seniors to soon go out in the workforce, I will tell you, if you have any meeting that you have a responsibility for, I cannot enforce to you enough to prepare an agenda. It sounds very simple. It sounds almost foolish to have to say so, but I will tell you, if you have that responsibility, it will help you prepare. It will help you think through what maybe might make the meeting valuable for you and other people. So please, as silly as it is, if you take nothing else today, I would say be disciplined about your agenda. So today we'll talk about a little bit about my personal background. I'll try to hit some professional background. I really will try my hardest to give you examples of things unrelated to simply what my background is, but at least pieces of information that I think might be of value for circumstances that I've had in my career. So I'll just talk about general professional background. I'll give you some information on specifically what I do which is an owner's representative or an owner's project manager. My experiences of these sort of next four might kind of cluster together a little bit, but my experience at Oneonta, sort of the path of my career and some of the variability or some of the challenges in that path that I think many of you might face someday, just to give you some comfort, if you will. A little bit, I'd like to hear a little bit about what the room is doing, what your majors are, kind of what your goals may be, what you expect you're going to do after graduation, just to maybe give you a little flavor about what to talk about. You as your most valuable asset and things you can do to work on that. We'll have a little question and discussion and then a little exercise at the end called a plus delta that I'll talk about when we get to that point. So I don't know if we have touched upon all this. I am from Utica, New York, a little town, Marcy, just outside of Utica, New York. My wife also is a Oneonta State graduate, 1994 as well. And I have three children, three daughters, ages 23, 24, 26. And I did have to check the board to remember that. So I do, my one daughter, who is 24, she graduated as a civil engineering student about a year ago. So I have spent a lot of time with her over the years, talking about her career path and her future and why to go into engineering or why not to. So though I am old, I have some relevance, I think, maybe to the position that a lot of you were in. So hopefully that can be of value to you. So as we said, I graduated from Oneonta in 1994 in math. I was part of the 3-2 engineering program here. I graduated from Virginia Tech in civil engineering in 1997. Now, I say I was part of the 3-2 engineering program. I was technically part of the 5-3 engineering program. So I was here at Oneonta for 5 years. The first two of that, a little variable, not a tremendous amount of direction, not a lot of passion in a certain area that I wanted to work in. So I had a friend of mine who, I'll talk about some of my classmates and what they did later, but one of my roommates, Paul, it was the summer after my sophomore year. I was at his house visiting out in Buffalo, and his father's like, "Yeah, Barry, what are you studying?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. At the time, maybe I was a psychology major. I can't remember." But so he said, so I said, "I just don't know what I want to do." And he was an engineer, mechanical engineer, went to University of Michigan. And he said, "Well, Barry, I can tell you this. Can you do math?" I said, "That was always okay at math in high school." He said, "Well, I can tell you this. People hire engineers." And this was in the mid 90s. The job market wasn't great necessarily in a lot of different areas. And he said, "You know, if you go up against a business major, a psych major, a history major, for any number of jobs, be it technical or otherwise, people are hiring engineers. If you want to get a job, you should be an engineer." So I said, "Oh, sounds great. I should go do that." So marched back to campus junior year, found out about the 3-2 engineering program, got into that, spent those 3 years here, and then went out to engineering school. Took a year in between down in Virginia just to work a little bit and save some money and become a Virginia in-state resident for tuition purposes, and then finished up a couple of years there in 1997. So 97 graduate from Virginia Tech. Two of my daughters, the two oldest ones, also Virginia Tech graduates, go Hokies. Became a licensed engineer in 2007 after a couple attempts at passing the exam. So not the smoothest path there necessarily either. And then I got my master's from University of Southern Cal via their distance education program in 2012. And then 2015 started my own firm. So a little bit about what I do specifically. I spent 14 years of my career working for construction companies, contractors. The last 8 of that specific to healthcare projects. So during that time, I as a student, certainly not as a student here, even as a student at Virginia Tech to some degree, I can't even say that I had a great desire or great understanding to go run out and be a design engineer, designing roadways and water systems and structures and all those kind of things. So I just sort of fell into construction, for lack of a better term. That career fair day, I thought construction seemed good because it wasn't a strictly office job, would give me an opportunity to be out in the field a little bit. So that's sort of what I pursued. So throughout the building of healthcare construction projects, I got a flavor kind of near the end of that there were challenges we were seeing on projects as a contractor. Challenges related to budgets and how those budgets were established, challenges related to schedules that were mapped out by hospital owners and hospital leaderships that projects had to be carried out. So I started to get a little curious about how these projects were initiated. And I was on a project that had a consultant / project management firm that oversaw that project for them. So I had that sort of first introduction to what that might be. So after 14 years as a contractor, I went out and found a job with a third-party consulting firm that did healthcare hospital project management. And so what that means is many of these large hospitals and healthcare institutions, they have a staff of designers and project managers and construction people that maintain the hospitals, for lack of a better term, do some small additions and renovations and small construction projects. But when it comes to large scale, 100, 200, $300 million expansions, in the case of my current project for Duke Health in North Carolina, a $980 million, 200-bed new hospital construction, they don't really have a team that has that expertise necessarily. So they look out for people that do. So those firms, when they reach out, they may come to you, these hospital systems may come to you with nothing, with no plan of how they're going to get from point A to point B. They may know from a strategic planning standpoint that our hospital can stand to have 100 more beds. Our community needs it. We have a place to build it. We have no idea how to go about doing so. So they would reach out to someone like me who has built them for many years and ultimately who has worked as a manager on a collection of them. And that person would establish a budget for them with virtually no information other than we want 100 beds. We need some spaces to support those beds. Maybe we want some operating rooms. Maybe we want an imaging center, CAT scan machines and MRIs and those kind of things. So they may have a bit of a plan there. They don't know where to put it, what the footprint looks like, how big the building is, what it will cost, how long it will take, any of those things. So they would hire someone in my position to begin to build those pieces for them. Some of the information is mine. Some of the information is other consultants, architects, engineers, commissioning agents, land planners, attorneys, all those other people that we will build in that team. I'm fine to let someone join, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry, does it say who?
Alexandra?
Yeah, don't know. By all means.
Let's go. All right, great, thank you. So those firms will reach out to someone like me to one, start to build the structure of how that goes and to build a team that we need to do so, but also to dictate some internal structure. So you can imagine when you're building a hospital, there is no design professional, architect, engineer, otherwise, that understands what that particular healthcare institution does. So it may sound, it may seem when you go to these hospitals, it's all sort of the same process everywhere you go. Believe it or not, it isn't. So how people go about receiving patients, kind of sending them through their facility, how they treat them when they're in a space, what they like their ORs and their patient rooms and stuff to function like and be like and where things sit. That can vary greatly between hospitals. So it is on that team, my team, the planning team, to make sure there is a structure within the hospital of people that can provide input in our design as it develops. And those people are clinical people. So they have a job. So they don't have a tremendous amount of time to devote to us and our project. So there has to be a really efficient scheme of developing the project in a sensible way while soliciting this input of a range of dozens to hundreds of people that work at these healthcare institutions to build ultimately what we know they need. So that interface between the clinical people, that design team, and ultimately carrying out the project falls on me and my team to do relative to these new builds. So that may be, you take a project from conception, you bring it through till the design is complete and a contractor is ready to build, and the job's ready to come out of the ground, and I go on my way. They have some internal project managers potentially to carry that project out through construction. So overseeing the construction, monitoring the schedule that the contractor presents, evaluating cost changes that the contractor brings to you, that they are valid, that the magnitude of that cost change is reasonable, that it is work that we want to carry out in the way that it's shown. So that sometimes is done by me and firms like mine. Others it is. This project for Nova Health System, which is in Northern Virginia, Alexandria, Virginia. I spent a couple of years with them planning a $1 billion hospital that they are under construction now. They have an internal team that carries out the construction. I just did the setup and the planning and the budgeting and all those kind of things. The Duke project, I will carry that one out. As of now, I will be carrying that one out to the end of 2029 to completion as their project manager. So that's a little bit about what an owner project manager is relative specifically to hospital and healthcare construction. Any questions?
So, what sort of staff do you have to do these things?
So my staff is just me. I have no other employees. I have no other staff. So it's a great question in the sense that I have, I've been in business on my own for 10 years, for over 10 years now. I have had a lot of opportunities. You'll see, if you look at this bar graph, I'm not really going to walk through all these projects, but I'll just use it for a reference when I need it. But, there's each of these bars represents different projects and institutions I have worked on with projects. So there's some overlap clearly. So depending on whether that effort is a full-time effort or not, you can share some time between multiple people. But the challenge of hiring employees is one that I have faced probably 3 or 4 times, where I have had the opportunity to work on projects while my time was completely committed to projects, and I have just decided not to do so. There is a complexity to other employees and other people that certainly is one I just have not been willing to take on, frankly. And there's before I went on my own, I worked for this firm, KLMK Group, which is a construction project management firm. And I started there as a project manager. And over the 4 years or so that I was there, I moved up to project director. So what that meant ultimately was you had 4 or 5 project managers that worked for you that were all assigned to projects that they were carrying out, and you oversaw those projects. So I did come to the decision years ago that I liked to be part of the project. I like to be the day-to-day guy that made the decisions on carrying out a project. So I also did not want to build my firm into one where I had 2 or 3 project managers working for me. I had the responsibility to keep them busy, to make sure we had repeat work, to keep employees busy, and to build the company and keep control of that company. And again, get further away from carrying out the projects, which ultimately is what I like to do. So I have kept it just myself over these years. Yeah. But what that brings is Duke Health, for example, has a 50-person construction department. So they would hire a guy like me because I've done, 10 projects in excess of $500 million and I understand the process. They have people within their organization that they say, hey, we have a couple of project managers, Barry. We can give them to you as a resource. They're still our employee and our staff. They will be assigned to you on this project. You'll just lead the project because of experience, nothing else. Yeah.
They're the ones sort of gathering and assembling all the information we need to make the decision.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. And again, this project at the earliest inception, we have a phase that is, you'll see this little picture is a phase that's under construction. The hospital expands kind of off page as it goes. The hospital portion of the balance of the building is still under design. So we're building a part of it, we're designing part of it. We have a trailer complex out at the site that has, at any given day, on a busy day, which is Wednesdays and Thursdays for us, there's 80 people in this trailer. So between architects, land planners, engineers, our contractors guys, you know, we're working on what's called a target value development process. So we hired our contractor and our design team before we really drew anything at the very beginning of the job. So as the design develops, we establish the budget, we establish the schedule. As the design develops, we have an army of contractors tracking our budget and our estimates against the evolution of that design to make sure we don't do things from a design standpoint that we can't afford. Or if we do, we make the conscious decision to do that. So it may be me as a leader of the project. There are literally 80 people in the trailer carrying this job out. So a one-man firm can do things like that because of all the consultants and sub-consultants and things that are involved. So I'll go on to a little bit about the Oneonta experience. You heard a little bit about my experience in my extended 5 years here, which I loved. My parents weren't quite as psyched about, especially when I told them I was not getting a job after that. I was going to move to Virginia and continue going to school for a few years. But I did want to give you a little example. These are 8 people that to this day, these are 8 of my best friends in the world. We get together every couple of years. We talk a lot. We text each other a lot. These are guys that I met, I should say, 5 or 6 of these guys. I met my first day here freshman year in Wilbur Hall and have been friends with these guys ever since. But I just put this up as an example of what sort of the range of what Oneonta can do for you or what opportunities there are. I played basketball here when I was at Oneonta, and my basketball coach freshman year had a big seminar first week of school for all the freshmen to basically tell us how bad of players we are, but to also try to give us some guidance as we went on to school. And he used to say, Oneonta is a great place. If you want to commit to learning something and commit to a degree and work hard at it, you could get as good an education as there is to be offered anywhere in America. If you want to come here and you want to sort of float in the middle and not work tremendously hard and kind of sneak out of here with a degree and be a basketball player, which is what I thought I was going to do for a couple of years, he said, you could probably do that too. And you'll have a degree and you might go out in the world and do just fine. You could do both of those things if you wanted to. I would recommend the first, but he said, it's really up to you. You can do what you like. And I have always loved that about what he said. I think it's true. I think I've had friends that have done both. And out of these 8 people I have on the screen here, there are a couple of guys on the screen that did the latter. They were not the most committed students. They were not the hardest working people. They were good people. They were intelligent people. They were capable of things. It just wasn't when they decided to do it. So I only give you that example in terms of your own academic success or not. That may or may not be the complete driver of what you're capable of doing. So just to run through quickly, my friend Paul was a chemistry major here. He was part of the 3-2 engineering program initially, didn't have a lot of success in math and differential equations in particular, dropped out of the 3-2 engineering program and stuck specifically with chemistry. He's a very high level, very successful vice president at a chemical company, runs their thin films division, whatever that means, which is plastic bottle wraps and house wrap and other things like that. Terrific guy, very hard worker, by the way. He was not the latter. He was the former. But my friend RJ was an earth science major here. He's been with this same firm, Kinder Morgan, since we left Oneonta. He's a manager of their environmental remediation division, has had great success there. Very mid-level student. He would admit that, by the way. My friend Ed was a physics major, also originally part of the 3-2 engineering program here. Also dropped out and stuck with simply physics because of differential equations again. Ed, so this is a great one. Ed went out to found this company, TK&K, which is a fueling a fleet fueling consulting company. So they do a lot of government contracts for fleet fueling of government vehicles, and they do a lot of fuel related testing and remediation. So fuel storage tanks and storage facilities. I have no idea how Ed got into this. This is not something we ever spoke about when we were friends at Oneonta. So he employs about 300 people in his firm. He has a very successful firm. He's a really sharp guy. And in fact, Ed is a licensed engineer in the state of Massachusetts, having dropped out of engineering and not even ever received an engineering degree. After a certain amount of work experience in most states, 15 or 20 years of work experience, you can sit for the PE, and if you pass, you're a licensed engineer. So Ed is now a licensed engineer, never having gone to engineering school. My friend Chris, just a lifelong educator, a very mediocre student, showed up at Oneonta knowing he wanted to be a science teacher, carried it out, went on to be a science teacher. He's 2 years away from retiring after working 30 years in the Byron Hill School District. Held a lot of leadership spots there in terms of head of the science department, head of curriculum, things like that. Super successful guy. My buddy Jeff, who lived right next to me in Wilbur Hall, he is the head of global HR and technology for Citicorp, which is astounding to me if you knew this guy 30 years ago. But a super successful guy, very magnetic kid, good guy to deal with. My buddy Dan, again, a lifelong teacher, is a history teacher, has his PhD from Syracuse, is the provost of online learning for New Jersey Institute of Technology. My friend Scott, again, a teacher, lifelong science teacher, has been a high school principal down in Long Island for the past 10 or 15 years, also a couple of years away from retirement. And then finally, my buddy John, who lived in also a Wilbur Hall guy, he is an eye doctor. Well, again, never any discussion of I'm going to get out of Oneonta with a biology degree and go move on and be an eye doctor somewhere. So he lives up in Clyde, New York, an eye doctor. So again, these are eight people that I met within one day of arriving on campus. All became very good friends of mine. All utilized everything that Oneonta had to offer them to the fullest, and have had great success. So a range of majors, a range of paths. Oneonta can do wonderful things for you if you let it. How many underclassmen, like freshmen, sophomores? So not a ton, mostly juniors, seniors. Our 3-2 engineering program guys specifically? All, so a couple of you are kind of midway through. Thoughts of where you guys want to go to engineering school? Any thoughts yet? No Virginia Tech guys? You should consider it. So let me jump to this section here, just to talk a little bit about path and some challenges you might have in your career path, and the fact that those are probably very normal things. Check the time quickly. So what you see on the screen is these are, again, this is where I have worked over my career. I've been working for 28 years, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 jobs, and actually there's one missing. So I worked for different contractors, somewhere tucked in here for a little less than a year. So 8 jobs in a matter of 28 years. So clearly that's a lot of jobs. One, it's not, nothing necessarily resonated particularly well with me clearly as being the place. The longest on here was probably UW Marks Construction, was probably 7 or 8 years. Each of these was a short amount of time. But I started out at Highland Myers Furniture. This at the time in 1997 was the largest furniture retail store in America. Had over 2,000 stores. We used to travel the country buying up little stores and renovating them and redesigning them, building new stores all over the country. So I was a student at Virginia Tech at the time. My wife was a teacher in Blacksburg, Virginia, and I got this job making less than she was making as a teacher, under the theory that, oh my God, I went to engineering school, I got it, we're set. And I was leaving engineering school. I did not have any work experience. I didn't co-op, I didn't intern. I was an older student when I moved to Virginia. I had my girlfriend with me at the time, who is currently my wife. And I had a life. I had like a grown-up life. So I had to work. I had a full-time job while I was a student at Virginia Tech. So I just did not, either I didn't see the value in it or I just didn't have the opportunity to do it. But I did not have that kind of experience. So I struggled a little bit getting a job out of school. So I take this job in Richmond. I tell my wife, like, we got to go to Richmond. This great engineering career is much better than your teaching career. We should go. So we take a pay cut to move across the state of Virginia from Blacksburg to Richmond. And in 7 months there, I get laid off. Company, largest furniture store in America, goes out of business. In the 7 months that they hired me till the time that I got let go. So, obviously I got to go home and face my wife that I don't have a job. We're making less money. And here we are moved across the state of Virginia. So not the greatest situation to be in. To be completely honest with you, my wife was probably pretty excited about it. It just didn't resonate with me for some reason or another as being that big a deal. I had such faith in this engineering degree that it would just carry me that I truly was not overly worried about it. And so at that point, I was looking for owner project manager jobs. That's kind of what I decided on when I was a Virginia Tech student. And then when I lost that job at Highland Myers Furniture, the guy who let me go gave me a business card of a contractor that built a lot of their projects. He said, this guy's looking for a project manager, you should call him. So I call him, he hires me right away, needs somebody desperately. So within a matter of days, I have a new job, I'm on my way. No big deal. And I'm introduced to the world of construction, working for actual construction companies. So I just put this list up there because obviously none of these companies I thought were that great. None of them were really worth hanging out all the time or for a long time. But I will tell you, there is something to be taken from every place that you go and every job that you have. So I may not have understood some of this at the time even, but in looking back on it, I got a little bit of a flavor at Highland Myers for what it would be to be an owner's project manager, which is ultimately what I do on my own for 10 plus years. So there's some value there. This firm, Lloyd Associates, was a mid-sized regional contractor in Richmond, Virginia, did a lot of retail stores. We did a lot of work for department stores, Belk Department Store and Walmart and Tractor Supply and AutoZone. We had projects all over the country. It was a very good contractor. Had no trouble getting work, had no trouble carrying work out. It was a single person owner of that firm. And this man was a spender. So when it comes to going out on your own and starting your own firm, this firm ultimately went out of business with a stack of projects ready to build that you wouldn't believe that ultimately went out of business because the firm could not control their spending. That was the bottom line. So a great lesson when you go out on your own someday if you choose to do that. I worked for this great firm, Kessel Construction, again, an awesome seller of projects. I was pretty young when I worked for Kessel Construction still. I was, here for less than a year. I was here for maybe a couple of years. Kessel Construction was a young startup firm, young owner, great energy, seemed like a cool place to go to. And we could sell work. So I was about a 26 or 7-year-old project manager, very inexperienced myself. The owner of the company was a pretty young guy, not overly experienced in building projects. So our company could get work. So the ability to connect with people, to give them some confidence in the fact that you can do it, what those meetings and those kind of sales pitches go like, I learned all of those things. We couldn't carry out a project profitably to save our lives. We could get them, but we were getting them left and right. So we weren't very good about staffing. We weren't very, very good about hiring and building our firm because it was a very, very young firm at the time. So we didn't have a lot of great ability there, and we just couldn't finish these jobs profitably. So after a few years of that, a guy joined our firm, a 20, 30-year construction veteran, joined our firm as a partner, and the firm technically changed names. So this is technically the same job. But this guy who came to our firm at 25, 30 years in construction, this guy knew how to carry out projects. He knew how to set them up. He knew how to contract the subs appropriately. He could build a schedule. He could audit changes like nothing you could see. So this guy could carry these things out. So I started to piece together, okay, here's how you get work. Here's how you do it well. And then I moved back to Albany, New York, back in 2004 for reasons, non-professional reasons. So I go to work for UW Marks Construction, and I'm carrying out all these great things that I learned up here. And then I get into the healthcare business. First job that I had at UW Marks was a healthcare project. That was 2005, and I have not worked on anything non-healthcare related since. It's been 20 years. And that is because it's a great market. It doesn't seem to slow down in terms of the economy and projects that are being built. And I built a lot of projects, warehouses and retail and commercial and other things like that prior to that. And there's something about healthcare that gives you a little bit more of a reward in terms of what you're carrying out and what you're giving to the community. So then that is around the time that I had these thoughts about going to be an owner project manager. Worked for this firm, K for 4 years, learned what that business was, how you get work, how you set up a fee proposal, what you charge, some structure and some process by which you carry these jobs out as an owner project manager. And I learned all those things. And that firm was bought out by CBRE, the big real estate giant CBRE, which is not certainly not my brand of company, obviously. So not long after that, a few months after that, I decided to go out on my own. I came to this revelation, if you will, that it's actually this customer here in Mount Sinai Hospital on Long Island, that I worked for them for KLMK for a couple of years on some projects. And I got to understand, I built a great relationship with the people there, first of all, but I got to understand, so all that customer knew about our firm and what we were doing was me. Nobody else was there. Nobody else in the firm came there. Nobody else in the firm helped manage the project. Nobody gave any input. So I sort of came to this resolution that, all right, well, I just need to get work. I need to convince people to hire me to do their work. And aside from that, I don't need these big firms and these big names and all those kind of things. You know, how could one guy by himself just convince people to hire you? Convince them that you have some skills worthy of them hiring you directly. So I left to go out on my own with some understanding that this one customer of mine had a lot of construction going on and a lot in the future, crossing my fingers that they would call me and say, hey, why don't you work for CBRE anymore? What are you doing? And I could say, well, I'm on my own if you're interested. And so that's really how I started. Is I left the firm. I kind of waited around for that first customer of mine to call me and to hit, and it did. And so then I've been working for 10 years since on my own. Questions, any?
What over here?
What's your name?
My name's Aiden.
Aiden?
How did you weigh the risks of going on your own? That's a super scary thing, and I'm just curious.
Yeah.
If you want this on.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to, I had a lot of confidence, Aiden, that this customer would call me. It was really just that simple. And I was under the impression that my resume and my skills were such that, look, if it just doesn't work out, if I go, let's say I really knew that customer would come to me. And let's say they did, and I worked for them for 2 years, and then it all fell apart. I couldn't get another job. I couldn't get another project. I couldn't get somebody to hire me. At the very least, I could dust off my resume, head back to CBRE and say, hey, I need a job. Or them, or there's other JLL or Hamas, or there's other firms out there that do the larger firms that do the same thing. I just was of the opinion that I have a good body of work. I have a decent resume. I'll go back to another firm and work for them if it all falls apart, which honestly is still my view. Like, as these projects come to an end, there is sometimes a lull where you're like, well, I really got to get something else. I really got to find something else to line something else up. And so, you know, part of it is the same risk. It doesn't change, especially for me, it doesn't change. It's great. I've been in business 10 years. The reality is when this job is done, I'm in the same 50-50 spot I was 15 years ago. Is another one going to come around or not? You know? So yeah, it's a risk, but I just go get a regular job at that point. I don't want to, but I would. Okay. What are we, 6? 2 till 6?
Yeah, yep.
So I'll just get,
We started about 5 minutes behind, so
Okay, so I'll just try to hit a couple of these things. I'm going to try to avoid being overly lectury. I do think these are important things to just focus on, or it's a lot. I would agree it's a lot. I don't expect every one of you to head out there in the world and make sure you're disciplined to carry on these 9 things every moment of your lives, and that's what it's going to be like. But I will tell you, having worked for 28 years, I think this is not just construction. This is not owner project management. This is not architecture, design, technical skills. All of these jobs, I think, carry some of the same thing. So work ethic, number one. I think most of you will find, unfortunately, a great effort, just a great effort, I'm telling you, will put you ahead of 95% of the working world. The numbers are that dramatic. My daughter, who I referenced as an engineer, she's been working, she works for a construction company in Northern Virginia and Washington, D.C., and she's been working 1 year. And I've told her this for years. And after 1 year, she reminds me all the time of people she comes in contact with, very high level people, vice presidents, presidents, construction company owners. She tells me all the time about people she comes in contact with that she reinforces to me, these people don't seem all that talented. They're not working particularly hard, and they have to be easy to beat. That's the way, believe it or not, a lot of the professional world is. Great effort will get you guys incredibly far, incredibly far. You will not believe it. So continued great effort, working together and working collaboratively. I assume you guys are like every other university in America, that group projects are a requirement, or you do a lot of them. So you should be getting great experience doing that now. If you have done a group projects, I'm sure you realize there is always a weak link in a group project. There was always somebody who's carrying a group project. I would just recommend to you, if you're in a group and you evaluate the strengths of that group, if you believe you're the weak link in that group, you should probably do something about that. Number 3 is communication. This speaks a little bit to the 8-3 document that I put together. I don't just mean communication in terms of good verbal communication or written skills or all those kind of things. They're important, technical writing and proper grammar and all that stuff. It's important, but I will tell you, in my business, certainly, I think probably in a lot of others, the most important thing for communication is to take complicated stuff and be able to break it down either graphically or in words or verbally, to describe it in as simple a way as possible to other people. And that is to drive decisions from those other people. That is to convince them about some approach that you think is right. That is to just advance the project in some way. To be the ability to communicate complex things and to dissect them, to try to communicate them as best you can or as simply as you can, is a tremendous skill that you should work on if you don't happen to have it today. Building meaningful relationships is critical. We talked about a little, the relationship with these people at Mount Sinai that helped me start my job. This past Saturday, I was in New York City for their annual fundraiser for Mount Sinai. I have no active projects with them currently. I did just finish one up back late last year. But the relationships that I have with Mount Sinai Hospital will go on forever. They're not, I will say to you, they're not easy to find. Everyone you have won't be that. But when you find people either of like interest, sort of similar demeanor, you have kind of comparable work objectives. When you think you have found these people, I would say work to foster these relationships and work to keep them. They will be of great value for you forever. Another one, Duke Health. I've built a relationship with a head of facilities at Duke Health when I started at campaign 2011 and returned back there this past February to work on this project. So not only for professional advancement, which is great, but if you build these relationships genuinely, they will come back to you. They're important. Decision-making and accountability. When you are young and when you're just getting into the workforce or whatever your job or whatever your career is, please be bold in making your own decisions. Nobody needs you to come to them constantly for validation or verification or check. You have the ability. If you came out of here and if you go to some engineering school and you come out and you have the ability to make these choices. Don't be afraid to make bold choices when you're young. If they stink, if they fail miserably, just be accountable for it. You'll be fine. It'll all recover. You'll be good. But don't be afraid to make those bold choices. Negative interactions are very seldom forgotten. Work very hard to not have them. Deliver on commitments you make, be easy to work with, control your emotions, don't be overly volatile when not necessary. So those drastic negative reactions sit with people forever. You should try to avoid them. Continuous improvement. I think I show this a little bit over my career. You know, I have always worked to improve myself, to continue to get education, to continue to do new things. I have a few things on here on the bottom. The Construction Management Association of America, which is the governing body for sort of owner project managers. They have a certificate program that I have never bothered to go do. I still have the goal to go do that. The American Society of Healthcare Engineering, they have a certified healthcare constructor test and certificate that's sort of the healthcare construction version of the PE, though not as dramatic in my opinion. So that's one that I still seek to go do. So I'm 54 years old. I've been working 29 years. I still have certain goals to do new things and different certifications, improve yourself. So I would say continue to work toward always learning and improving yourself. Community engagement, it's just another way to build relationships, to feel better about what you're doing, to meet people in your industry, to be impactful in your community. It's important, I think, for everyone, for our own mental health. It's a good thing. And then I highlight it because it's the hot button of the day, probably. My wife, my daughter and I argue about this one a lot. We discuss this one a lot. So I'm old, which my daughter will remind me. I don't believe in the concept of work-life balance per se. Only in the sense of, I don't believe, I'm not saying you should ignore your family and friends and run off and work 90 hours a week. But what I am saying is, depending on who you are, if you want to be a young engineer and you want to get your 40 hours in and you want to work for 30 years as a mid-level engineer at some firm designing rockets and that appeals to you, awesome. You can get your 40 hours in, you can make a wonderful living, you'll have a great career, that'll work out. If you know inside you that's the guy you are, that's fine, that's great, you should do that. If you want to be a president of a company, a high-level vice president, you want to own your own firm, certainly someday, or any of those things, work-life balance does not exist. There is what I like to call, and I think this is like a Jeff Bezos thing or one of those guys, work-life blend, right? There are moments where you will work 15 hours in a day. There are moments where if you think you have to leave at 2 o'clock because your daughter has a recital, you should go do it. You should go leave at 3 o'clock for that recital. Thank you. But you may be home at 9 o'clock at night working on an email or writing a proposal or doing an estimate, and you may have maybe up from 9 to midnight and back up at 6 o'clock the next morning. That all might happen. If you like to bring your kid to school every day, awesome. But you may be working from 10 to 9 p.m. every day. If you are that other type of person, if that's who you are. So I would just caution you that work-life balance may be a little bit over-exaggerated. And it doesn't mean ignoring things. It just means the hours may be different than what you believe. So a quick plus delta, and then we'll field a couple questions if you want. This is an exercise. I don't know if you guys have done this before. This is an exercise in the spirit of, if you aren't judged or graded, you will never learn anything. You will never advance. So this is what we do at the end of any sort of large meeting or work session or something we have. A plus is things that you thought were good about this particular session. A delta is things you thought could be improved. So I just put some examples up here. You may say, wow, that was spot on. It's exactly what I wanted to hear. 2, you say, I'm a high-level physicist. I don't care about this construction guy. That's not for me. Fine. So just a little plus delta in the room. These are just sort of my examples I gave you. Anybody want to throw one out? Anything? Let's start with improvements. Anything you think could be better? You hate the A3 material. You would like to see a PowerPoint. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe have more of like a slide presentation, but
Fair enough.
that's just something small.
Fair enough. Sure. Any pluses? What's your name? I'm sorry.
Landon,
Landon, what was your name?
Mila.
Mila.
I feel like you addressed one of the questions that I had very specifically.
Great,
So that was
awesome,
good.
good to hear. Good to hear.
And
Yes.
what was that question?
That question was, I was gonna ask, do you think that business and career communication skills is just as important as technical skills that you learn in a degree program? And how would you address like exposing yourself to those ideas? And I felt like that you
Yeah.
pretty much covered that.
I think, look, I don't have a highly technical job. I don't do design work. I don't deal in high level physics theory and those kind of things. I don't have a highly technical job. It's more of a management job. There's some technical parts of it when it comes to evaluating like changes and design changes and stuff, which comes from kind of experience. I will tell you, in my success over these 10 years alone has been communication, period. That's it. My ability to describe, not even my ability, like communication in front of a group like this is not my strong suit, but communication meaning like taking complicated ideas on our projects and disseminating to a way that our team can understand, or trying to kind of force my point on the project. That is, putting a good proposal together, explaining to people why they need me to work on their project. Like those sort of explanations are certainly my strong suit, for sure. More so than anything technical. It has been of the most value to me, for sure. Any other general questions or of any kind?
So, building a hospital is pretty technical, can be pretty technical. And sometimes, the site might be right next to the existing building. Have you ever had an experience where either the hospital didn't have a great idea of what they could add because they were pending grants or some new funding coming in? Or did you have another situation perhaps where you began construction only the site was on top of the sinkhole?
Yeah, I haven't had any that drastic. We have had some, the project that we finished here at Mount Sinai, this is a 4-story addition to the existing hospital. All of the utilities tie into the current plant that serves the campus, and the building connects on 2 sides on every floor. So there's an ED on the ground floor, connects to existing ED. Operating suite on 2nd floor connects to the existing operating room. Patient beds on the 3rd and 4th floor connect to the main hospital, two sides. But tremendously complicated project. I would say, I was part of that project from the early planning. I would say we exercised every possible option to not put it there. And we spent tens of thousands of dollars to design, to have an architect do plans on the west side of the campus, up in the front, vertical expansion, and we exercised them in terms of effect on the campus, cost, schedule, effectiveness of the use of the space when it's done. The tie on the multiple floors with existing footprint was kind of the killer. But we tried all we could do to not put it there because it made it ultra complicated. It was a project could have been built in 2 years. It took slightly over 3 because of where it's at. Yeah. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, just how you react to such a thing.
Yeah. And that's a great one. For that particular one, we had 3 separate sites on the campus. We had an A3 put together for every one. And the information on that A3 was, functionality, cost, time to build, time to get permitted, those kind of things. This is in Nassau County, New York, so permitting is a bit of a challenge. But yeah, that's a good example. Your name?
Michael.
Michael.
So your degree was in mathematics, and
Yeah.
you had mentioned that some of the people you were friends with in the 3-2 program had a bit of a snag at differential equations.
Yes.
Was this by chance by one constant Gutierrez?
I can't tell you I remember what professor they had. By the way, I had Dr. Gutierrez when I was here.
He's still here.
He was my linear algebra professor for 2 semesters when I was here. Yeah, he was my advisor when I took the Putnam exam, if anybody knows what the Putnam exam is about.
Yeah.
Have you taken it?
No, but one time he made a mistake in class and I called him out on it. And then after class, he told me to come see him and he recommended that I take the Putnam exam.
Yeah.
But I just
You have not elected to do so?
no, because proofs scare me.
Yeah, it would be the worst 8 hours of your academic life, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know the Putnam exam, it's a 120-point exam, at least was when I took it.
Isn't like 99%, sorry for interrupting.
Yeah.
Isn't like 99% of the people who take it fail to get it. on point.
Correct. 99% of people take it, get a 0. I got a 10. I got a 10 out of 120. I got one calculus problem completely right, top to bottom. And I had pages and pages of answers to all of the other 11 questions and got 0 points. Yeah. It's a cool experience if you still have a chance to take it. Check it out. No, not that one.
Proof scare me.
I don't think you helped the case.
Yeah.
I think the record, set by, for students, yeah, I think the record was 14. It was set by one of the professors in this last math department. I don't remember which.
One of the professors.
Yeah, she, went here as undergrad and she took the exam. The record was 14, so that's the record to me.
So you're probably up there in the rankings.
Solid. I'm gonna have to go follow up with Dr. Gutierrez and see what the deal is, see where I stand.
I think that's what he told me.
When the year I took it, he took it as well. And I don't know how that works. They grade it formally or he grades it himself or whatever. And I remember, I certainly don't remember the numbers, but I remember hearing his grade. And when I heard his grade, I'm like, if I knew that ahead of time, I would not have taken it. If like he got like a 32 or something, like if I knew this guy got a 32 on this exam, there's no chance I would have rolled myself up.
I think he once told me a story about when he was a professor at some university in Indiana, Orbis, and he talked about how there's a computer science major. I think got the 80 or 90 and he did extremely well.
Rose Home. Rose Home Institute.
Told me how amazing.
That's crazy. Other questions?
So you got your undergrad in civil engineering or your master's?
Undergrad.
Okay.
And then my master's from USC is construction engineering and management.
Okay, so
Yeah.
is there a reason after leaving Oneonta you went for your undergrad in civil engineering as opposed to just the master's?
Yeah, I guess, I don't know, honestly. I guess I just thought without a bachelor's in engineering, that was a big leap. You know what I mean? To just jump into master's coursework without having a bachelor's in engineering, I just thought it was probably a big stretch.
I think another thing in civil engineering, correct me if I'm wrong, but the number of undergrad programs are geared towards licensure in civil engineering.
Right.
Whereas if you go to the masters, they might be moving on
may not
more
be the
towards
case.
research or
Yeah.
And not so geared towards licensure.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
for civil engineering specifically.
Yeah.
It's been my understanding.
For you 3-2 engineering guys, I will tell you one thing, I don't think I touched on it. When I went to Virginia Tech, you know, there's a lot of high level students at Virginia Tech in engineering when I went there. Very difficult coursework, challenging professors, all that. Oneonta State prepares you beautifully for that. Virginia Tech was not one of the partner schools, you know, that we have here. So, you know, I had some worry that you'd have some transfer issues or anything. They took every class I rolled out, accepted every transfer credit, and the preparation for the classes you have there that you got here in your core, you know, engineering, statics, dynamics, all those other classes was unbelievable. You guys have a wonderful path ahead of you when you go to engineering. So.
Just wanted to ask if you touch on some of your biggest blunders or mistakes in your professional career and see how they change the way you approach right now.
Yeah. You know, I don't know that I can point out a blunder, like just an egregious mistake that I have made necessarily. You know, I mean, other than little nominal career choices, like when I worked for this Lloyd Associates, a small contractor, within weeks of that job, I got offered a job with Whiting Turner Construction, who's a huge national contractor at the time. That was a small little regional contractor. And I elected to stay at Lloyd Associates amongst that job offer. And I do think there was a lot of experience I probably missed out on early in my career, having had the structure and kind of the discipline of a larger firm who did larger projects. So I think just that decision maybe put me back a little bit. UW Marks was just not, from a level of professionalism, sort of in the things you could learn there, was just not that type of firm. So maybe just a bad decision there. Like, you know, I never did anything drastically, you know, professionally that, you know, caused some great structural issue in a building, had a job go horribly wrong. Nothing like that, knock on wood. Okay.
Anyone else?
Since some of your formal education was like in engineering.
Yep.
Is there any part of you that this is the really like nitty gritty technical side of things? As part of the work that you're doing now, or
Yeah,
more so just enjoy like the outcomes that you're making things happen, you're getting things accomplished?
yeah, there is, I may downplay the technical part of it a little bit. There is some of that I still get to touch, like for example, the project that I'm working on now, we have a parking structure on the campus, originally designed as a precast structure. Parking garages very often are done precast concrete. So originally we were gonna do it in precast. We decided the main building is cast in place concrete. We decided for the efficiency of our trades, we would like the same trade to carry from one to the other. And so we would go cast in place with the garage. And our contractor said that would cost us $442,000 or something to make that switch. So I have to take all that information. I have to take these two designs and understand the details of both of those designs, the components of which they say cost so much more from one to the other. I have to have some understanding of what it costs to tie rod, to tie rebar, to buy concrete, to build formwork. And I have to do takeoffs of those things myself. I have to compare those two documents. So that's just an example of there is some technical component that comes around on occasion that maybe gives me enough of that, I guess, to still make it interesting.
You have to know things like, if you're, got so many specialized rooms.
Yeah.
You must know, and I can imagine some of this as the architect, but you must know that an MRI machine is going to be heavy.
Yep.
And you don't want to irradiate everybody. So,
Yeah.
so, someone must come to you and say, this is $1 million room. And you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That's a fight.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We again, on this Duke project, we have 2 linear accelerators, which is radiation cancer treatment. We have 2 linear accelerators. There was some talk from administration to add a 3rd. And so, administrations at hospitals love to do this and they say, oh, what do you think it would cost to add a 3rd, guys? And the design team, the architect is there and the design team says, it's probably $5 or $6 million. The linear accelerator is about $11 or $12 million. It's a large concrete vault, 6 and 7 foot thick concrete walls, floor ceilings for radiation purposes, often lead lines, those kind of things. For you physics guys in the room, the radiation physicist is a huge job for us at the health systems, just in terms of creative jobs that maybe you guys haven't heard of. Varian, who is a maker of linear accelerators, manufacturer, Varian, Siemens makes them also, but Varian is the builder of linear accelerators that I know of in America. They have great jobs that are sales jobs that they love hiring physicists for. They love hiring physics and technical engineers for their sales jobs. They have project managers that manage the oversight of them bringing their equipment and building it in our hospitals. Those project managers, they love to hire physics guys and engineers for those jobs. If anybody's interested, it's a good avenue.
We had some interest. We have, that I know of, 2 medical physicists in our alumni.
Great job.
And some ears, one of them came back and spoke, I think, last year, and some ears.
Awesome.
Some ears perked up.
Yeah, it's a great one.
And the other one, my father needed a procedure, and I actually called him, said, would you do this? And
Yeah,
he gave me a whole lowdown.
yeah,
So when the other speaker came, I passed along a Physics Today article that said there was a real shortage in medical physicists,
oh, wow.
but it was not clear. And I attended a session on medical physics at the American Association of Physics Teachers. It's still not clear to me how they're reaching that conclusion.
Yeah,
And it's not clear to me that training programs are in place except at a few small places.
Yeah.
along the way.
Interesting.
But I appreciate you saying that. And I'm working on, evidently there's a medical physicist up at Bassett in Cooperstown who loves to.
Well, I'm sure they got one, yeah.
Working on that, but that's a ways away.
Great healthcare institution you guys have access to at Bassett.
Oh, okay, I talked to,
The company's just super interesting because like you're the owner and you're the only employee. I'm just curious how you separate yourself from like bigger firms that have like many different.
That's a great question. Look, I think I would go under the argument that when I was with my other, yeah, anybody who's got to go, please feel free. When I was with my other firm in the capacity of a director, where you have like 5 project managers who work for you, we loved, because I have a good resume specific to healthcare and healthcare projects, right? And you have a young project manager who might have been working for 8 or 10 years, not 25 years. These firms love to roll out my resume to be their guy on a project, right? And they say, here's your guy, we want to get the job, and they award you the job. And very quickly after that, that guy brings in a young project manager who's been working 8 or 10 years, brings him up to speed on the project, and he leaves him to work on it, and he slides out to go manage 4 or 5 other projects and other project managers. That would be my argument to them. That has been my argument to them. When I come to you and say, I want to work on your project, there is nobody else. You're not getting anybody else. You're not getting an 8-year project manager who's done 2 healthcare projects a month from now when your director slides out and slides him in. You're getting me, because there is nobody else. I've done 10 healthcare projects in excess of $500 million. I worked for 14 years building hospitals, and I'm not going anywhere. That's probably the main sell that I would put out there. But it's a fair point. There are firms out there there are hospitals out there that say, oh, I want to hire a big firm because if this guy leaves, let's say he just quits, he leaves the firm, he goes somewhere else. Now they're like, if I do that to them, they're stuck. They got nobody else to lean on. If CBRE's guy leaves, allegedly, they go back into the firm and they grab somebody else and put him there. Having worked there before, I can tell you at CBRE, anybody who is any good is working on a project. They're not sitting around waiting to sub in for someone else on another project. They're working. So if Barry Clyde leaves or dies tomorrow, you don't have any better chance of filling that role than CBRE has of filling that role, because those guys are just not out there. They're out working somewhere. That would probably be my other argument.
go ahead, Isabella.
So when like you first opened it up, like, did you network mostly, or was it like just?
Yeah, I do 0 advertising and marketing. Honestly, I joke as well. Sometimes people, 10 years is partially just dumb luck, to be perfectly honest with you. I think I do a good job. I work very hard on people's projects. I have a tremendous amount of experience. I think all those things are fine. But some of these things to fall into place, sometimes the circumstances are just good. You know what I mean? Like just a Nova project. I was winding down at Duke. I was looking for, this project was done. I was needing another project. And there was a guy who I worked with at KLMK who was a construction director or something at Nova Healthcare. And literally, in one moment, I was like, yeah, I got to start finding out what I'm going to do in a couple months when the Duke's job's done. And within a week, this guy, Lee Barton, sent me an email and said, hey, Barry, we got some big projects up here. Wondering if you got any capacity. Would you want to help us out? And so 2.5 years later, that's another project. I knew the guy, Lee Barton. I worked with him for many years. I stayed in touch with him because I liked him. Goes back to the making meaningful relationships thing. I liked the guy. When I was in Northern Virginia, I would go by and say hi to him and stuff just because I liked him. I liked working with him. He was a good guy. And it just came around. So some of it is good fortune, honestly.
Seen sometimes too, when people get the first job, it leads to the start of relationships, and also you get to see other things that are happening. And so all of a sudden more opportunities become.
Yeah, absolutely. This project, that was Sponsor Gore's project. It's a guy that he was a Richmond construction guy for many, many years. I knew him well. His name was Tom Romeo. And one day, maybe 4 months before that project started, I just called him to go get a cup of coffee, just because I haven't talked to him in a while. I respect him in the construction business, a good guy. Like, hey, Tom, want to go grab a cup of coffee? He's like, sure. So we're out having coffee, and he says, oh, by the way, we got this Harborview Hospital out in Norfolk, Virginia is getting ready to break ground. Do you have any chance to go work on it? There we go. So again, some of it is just good fortune. Luckily, you see the screen is riddled with Mount Sinai and Duke. Luckily, they have kept me very busy for many years because I know them well. And I was lucky enough to get a couple other fill-ins in between there. Cross our fingers, it keeps going.
Speaker came back in, about a year ago and part of the subtitle was, often good, mostly lucky.
Very often. Yeah, but it's like I said, the relationships I held on to, it didn't happen out of nowhere. So it's just, these are just a lesson to you. You should try to keep fostering these relationships for people that you like. Yeah.
So in like the engineering world, would you say having like a very specific niche that you're interested in is important? Like yours, healthcare center?
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about the other field. I could tell you, healthcare obviously has been very, very good to me. And I think healthcare specifically is a wonderful specialty in design. If you're electrical, mechanical, structural engineering, if you want to specialize in that world, mechanical, electrical in particular. The systems in our buildings are very, very unique to any other building in the world. So mechanical, electrical design, healthcare is a wonderful specialty, as it is in construction, obviously. Yeah. And I think there's others. I mean, I think there's others that are, data centers, for example. I know project managers and construction companies that is all they do. They work on data centers. I mean, I don't know if the lifespan of that is 50 years, but they're very busy right now. Yeah.
Lots of room for some innovative stuff in cooling systems.
Yeah, absolutely.
Energy systems. So
Absolutely.
I think, I'd like to thank our speaker again.
Thank you.
And, I want to say thank you also to all of you for coming out here and, and joining us. It's, I think at some point in time you said, this is dangerous, but, I was thinking of two things. There's something you take away from every job that you have. I think it's also true. I think I said it is Isabella today. Nothing is wasted. You take away something from everything.
Hope so.
And the other thing I think is interesting, you said $980 million.
Yeah.
The renovation we're sitting in, we were hoping we'd get 27 million for and have a classroom coming out the back, but we were stuck at 22. So there's no, where the little sort of pond area is there that doesn't have water in it. That was going to be a classroom, but that was the budget. Stopped there at 22. So roughly 140.
We did a budget for this project in 2000, when I was in Durham in 2017, maybe. Same project was 500 million. After COVID. 3-4 years. Project went on hold for several years. We come back after COVID in 2023 and start rebudgeting the project $1 billion, double. Yeah, that's what construction prices have done in the past 6 years. Yep. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Did everybody?